Hi there. Let's go over some practice questions to get us ready for our topic 1 to 3 quiz on geology, rocks, and minerals. Let's see if we can make these true and false. I'll give you a minute to do them, and then you can do it in your head, and then I'll tell you the answer. So, gneiss is a metamorphic rock from granite. Gneiss. True or false? So don't forget we have parent rocks and then we have child rocks, which are the metamorphic. So a parent rock forms a child. And so what does granite form? Granite is igneous. So with heat and pressure, what happens to granite? Does it form gneiss, which is the metamorphic? I think so. This is true. Heat and pressure can change sedimentary rock into metamorphic. What do you think? Is that the mechanism for us to make metamorphic? Heat and temperature, or heat and pressure? Yeah, so this is true. Biological weathering is caused by plants and animals. So one way we can break down rock is roots can get into the rock and crack them open, or animals can tromp on rock. And so yeah, that's true. Those are from living. Biological is living organisms. Eroded sediment pushed in front of glaciers is called moraines. Well, we didn't study the glaciers, and so we can leave that one. Unsaturated solution is needed to grow crystals. So we'll be growing crystals, and what we have to do is we have to have what's called a stuffed full solution, a solution that has so much dissolved substance in it that eventually, as it cools and some of the liquid evaporates, that leaves crystals to grow. And so it's not unsaturated, it's a saturated solution that would cause this. So it's false. We don't need to know about this. Glaciers can make scratches in rocks called striations. True. Remember, glaciers is a form of eroding rock. Chemical weathering occurs when vinegar is poured on rocks to decide if they have calcium in them. This is true. So acid will wear away rocks that have calcium in them, like calcium carbonate. Gold leaves a white streak on a porcelain streak plate. So one of the differences between real gold and fool's gold is the streak test. Fool's gold, which is iron pyrite, when we streak it, it leaves behind kind of a grayish color, a blackish gray. So fool's gold. Real gold, when we streak it, it streaks the color gold. So this is false. Doesn't leave a white streak. Real gold leaves kind of a yellowish gold streak. So this is false. Let's keep going. What's the difference between lava and magma? Well, when we study how igneous rocks are formed, we know that there are two kinds of things that can happen. So let's talk about magma and lava. Where do we find lava? Above ground. Where do we find magma? Underground. How can we describe how they cool? Lava cools quickly because it's on the surface. Quickly. And magma cools slowly. So this is a slow cooling. What else? Lava versus magma. Lava forms a certain type of igneous rock, it's called extrusive. And magma forms another different kind of igneous rock, which is intrusive. Cleavage versus fracture. So when we break apart rocks, some carry out fracture and some will cleave. How do they compare? Well, when a rock cleaves, when it breaks apart, it cleaves in wafers. And when a rock fractures, it crumbles into different size pieces. These wafers are usually relatively the same size and different sizes here. So this is crumble. Let's keep going. Name and describe 3 factors that influence soil formation. Remember, soil's formed from the wearing away, the chemical and physical wearing away of rock. And so how can that be controlled? Well, temperature affects soil formation. The hotter it is, the quicker we can often break down soil. Its location, if it's closer to the surface, it's going to erode a lot quicker. Name and describe 3 types of weathering. There's biological, which is animals and plants. There's mechanical, which is wind, glaciers, and then there's chemical. Give 5 different careers in which people might study rocks, minerals, and soils. We'll leave this one. Imagine that you've been given a mineral to identify. Name and briefly describe 5 properties that we'd examine. So some are more important than others. Probably the most important is density. Density is a really exact measurement of a mineral's property. Another one is its hardness on Mohs hardness scale. So hardness, and Mohs scale goes from 1 all the way to 10. And we usually use diamond to measure whether it's a 10. We use talc, which is one of the softest minerals, to help us tell where it is. A third property would be the luster. So it can have a metallic luster or non-metallic, which means it's kind of dull. Oops, we forgot. So we've got 2 more to do. We already talked about the streak test. So what kind of powder does it leave behind on a ceramic plate? The streak test is another property we could do. And how it breaks apart. So it's cleavage. Does it break apart in kind of wafers like mica, or does it just crumble in different size pieces? So there's 5 properties we could use. Let's see if we can match up now. Measures how easily a mineral can be scratched. Which one of these? How easy it can be scratched. That's going to be D. That's called its hardness. Name given to the scale of hardness. We just talked about that. That's Mohs scale, so that's G. One of the softest known minerals on Mohs scale, that's J. Talc. Oops, J. Talc. One of the hardest, again, we talked about that already, diamond. So B, diamond. Reflection of light, What do we call that? We call that F, that's luster. Color left by the powder when it's scratched on a porcelain plate, we call that the streak test. Remember, gold, fool's gold, will streak a blackish color, whereas real gold will streak its own color. Tendency to break along flat, smooth edges is cleavage, that's A. Common mineral that breaks along flat, smooth edges, that would be mica, breaks up into nice, so mica is E. Tendency to break in rough, jagged edges, quartz does that. H. And what do we call it when it breaks into rough, jagged edges? It's called fracture, C. Let's talk about mechanical versus chemical. Moss growing on the surface of rocks produces pits in the rocks. That would be chemical. The wedging of tree roots, that would be mechanical. Probably biological, which is limestone dissolved by carbonic acid. That would be chemical. Oxidation of minerals is chemical. Animals burrowing, dug in rock, letting in water and air. Let's come back to that. Repeated frost and freezing and then thawing is mechanical. Action of water, salt, and air on car fenders, that's rusting, which is a chemical. Acids from plant roots is chemical. A small rock falling off a cliff, that's going to be a mechanical breakdown. Tree roots cracking concrete, mechanical. Animal burrows, dug in rock, letting in air and water. This air and water might chemically react, but the animal doing the digging on the rock, that's mechanical. So it's probably mechanical. And so hopefully that gives you some practice on some questions.